From the very moment that we first stepped on the Emerald Coast here in Early Access, a lot of you guys have been asking, is the Emerald Coast going to be the best Fallow grind map, or is it going to remain Te Awaroa? So today, we are armed with our Fallow grinding 308 to try to find that out. And basically what we want to do is come here to Te and just see if fallow deer are even similar to what they were prior to the update. Now, to be fair, there was no fallow redistribution or anything like that on the map. There is just a pop reset, but I've seen a good bit of concern throughout the community that maybe fallow grinds would have to be completely redone, move tents all around, all that sort of stuff. And our goal today is to see if fallow deer are more or less in the same spots that they were prior to the update. And frankly, if that's the case, as we already have our second group of fallow deer drinking, then it's going to be a pretty wide margin, I think, with Te Awaroa still being the best fallow grind map. That's not to say the Emerald Coast will be a bad fallow grind map by any stretch, but in the time that we spent over there, we haven't seen anything like what Te was in the past and what I expect it to continue to be based on the fact that we've already seen quite a few fallow and a bunch of bucks. At this particular zone, I'm seeing a total of 3. I think 2 chocolate fur types and 1 spotted fur type. And we'd get in the tripod and try to get our hunting pressure down if this wasn't early access, but everything is going to be wiped away after this, and I'm not really concerned about getting too much pressure. So if we can, if the does will stay out of the way, we'll get that chocolate. Ooh, that was a little bit far back on the spotted one. And I mean, if that one's gonna run that way, we might as well try to get him as well. That's kind of good to know too. If this location is a place that we'll have fallow deer drinking on our live save, we'll definitely have to consider them running that direction. Now, one other thing I should note actually, the save here in the early access is not the same as our live save. So, we did a video a while back setting up basically for a future fallow grind. That setup isn't on this early access, so we won't be able to see if our setup is going to be useful in the live game. That said, already here having a couple of fallow deer in the same general areas, I think we're going to be okay. And there's a lot to check yet, but it's not hard to see why Te Awaroa just staying like it was would make it the best fallow grind map in the game. There's just so many fallow deer in these locations that are pretty easy to hunt. I mean, there's not a lot of places where the animals that you're grinding, when spooked, actually end up running back towards you and giving you shots like that. There's actually a few different areas of Te Awaroa where that will happen. Yet again, looks like just one, not a couple up there actually, but we've got another zone and another male. Now of course, I'm not going to show every single fallow zone in this hunt, or it's going to be like a 35-minute video, but what I did do was shoot every fallow along the river, and you can basically see the trail of destruction all the way along. It's, in my opinion, just as good as it's always been as far as that particular location. Also, it was basically filled with small males, so I figured we might as well wait till we find a decent one. And I'd say this guy qualifies at least as decent, so we'll get that and the, I think, dark fur type beside him. I didn't even see that little buck as well. If this wasn't early access, we'd probably try to get him too, but again, all of our progress gets wiped away after this anyway, so it's not the biggest deal to lose out on respawns. But yet another location that seems to be, actually, I kind of think better than in the live game. If I'm not mistaken, we had like 3 bucks and 3 does here. And I thought I saw a zone track right over there by the tent itself. That I think is the chocolate fur type and a pretty decent one. And another buck down there, but let's grab these 2 real quick. And then maybe we can move into a better location for a shot, at least at that lower one. The one on the right definitely should be a decent gold, maybe around 200. 199.4 is in fact around 200. Spotted fur type for him, and this little guy was the dark variation. A little bit less than 200 for him. And I'm going to say we should be able to get that shot into the chest cavity. So go ahead and do that. And possibly hard shot that chocolate fur type, or at least I think that's what it is. Now again, in the live game, when we did our fallow setup video that I referenced, this particular spot definitely did not have any fallow in it. The place that we shot the first 2 from did, but the zone where these 2 guys were, I'm pretty confident there were no fallow in it. I don't know what happened there either. I guess we did not get a good shot at the first one. Is this guy actually the chocolate variation though? That's the dark variant too. 218 is pretty solid, and we did hard shot him, go figure. The one kind of moving, no problem, but that was 250 meters, so we probably shot too low. And not to get too off topic, but it sure is nice when a couple of subpar shots still only require a couple hundred meters of tracking at most. The contestant shot really helped, but still got him down good and quick. And I don't really want to jump to any conclusions before we check all of our spots. We should go to the starter lake, I guess, too. And just like we saw in the live game, got a zone right here, basically right outside the outpost. If that one stays, and the thing is there's so many places they could drink along this lake, I'm kind of guessing it won't. Most likely they'd eventually move. But that's one of those places that could save you a 10. And it's actually really useful to have spots where you can actually spawn at an outpost. But let's try to get at least 2 of those. I'd say it's unlikely that we manage 3, but we can attempt it. Yeah, that's definitely going to be too late. At least that time. We didn't shoot too low on the first shot. That said, I don't know where the other one is. This one we shot front on, which would have been the first one. Where did the second one go? The hunting pressure's there. We got 2. Turns out this time, it was our second shot that actually didn't go too low. We just hit that perfect spot, like, too high up to get the heart. And kind of in between the lungs. That's a bit unfortunate, but it got him down. And what I was starting to say before I realized I wanted to go to the starter lake is that I didn't want to make an assessment on Te Awaroa as a fallow grinding map before we go up here to this location. This is still the very best fallow lake on the entire map, and if that's the same here in early access, I think we have the answer we need. And you have to be kidding me. We have a level 5 just sitting here, 264 to 305 actually. And keep in mind, the fallow populations were reset to get the new models and everything, and of course for the fallow deer great ones, so I'm not entirely shocked that we have a 5 somewhere on our map, but of course it's here. And there were, at least in the live game, and it looks like here as well, a bunch of different zones with a bunch of different fallow. I'm gonna say that remains exactly the same. The only thing I don't see being literally carbon copy was I think we had a group of them drinking over there. It's pretty much the end of fallow drink time, so I'd say everything is where they need to be. But let's make sure we make that shot. That'll do. I felt like, yeah, that's going to be a lung as well. And again, because it's early access, we probably won't kill every single one of these, but we might as well try to get at least a couple of them, just to kind of see what we have. I actually was going to say I don't know about that shot, but the ones where I feel like we do okay, they end up running for miles. The questionable ones keep on landing, but I suppose, even though the angle is just awful, one last one for the road, and we'll go and check on our level 5. And by the way, even apparently we had a zone right there next to the tent, because that guy just walked out. I still don't think we've seen, actually, either of the new uncommon variants. I thought that one was the chocolate, but it wasn't. And we haven't seen a single white fur type one. That would have been cool too, I didn't even think of it. This is just the regular spot. It is a big one, I might add. And what was he, 264 minimum, I think would show that? But having a level 5, basically initial spawn from the reset on our map, would have been pretty cool if we had a white fur type one. But again, maybe best save for the live game where we get to keep stuff. That does look pretty solid though. He is a 265 max weight as well. Initial spawn, if I've ever seen it, I swear we get more like max weight stuff as initial spawns. 205 meters, double lunged him, and even through the shoulder blade there. It's so interesting that can happen too, because that frontal shot, while it did go through some neck flesh, it barely got to the front of the lung. That punched through a shoulder, one lung, and into the second. But either way, I think that's our first look at the new models with the diamond antlers. They are so impressive. And again, what if we can get really either one, both the chocolate and the white look so good, but as a diamond, that would be amazing. And just to have that in the lodge would be super, super cool. But I think as we kind of run around and claim these things, the answer has been quite clear, at least to me. Te Awaroa is going to remain the best fallow grinding map. Now, I say that, and I don't want it to sound like the Emerald Coast is just a no-go, like, don't even bother grinding there. It is very good for fallow. There are lots of fallow zones, plenty of locations to hunt them, and hunt them effectively. But I don't think it's going to compare to just what you can achieve out here on Te Awaroa, only because every area that fallow deer drink in now is so wide open. When they used to drink up here at these 2 lakes fairly consistently in big numbers, that could be a little bit more problematic. Lots more cover and stuff for them to get behind. Once they start fleeing, there's not a lot of places they can go out here. It's just so open. You've got those opportunities for follow-up shots. You've got the chance to scan around and make sure you see everything. And it's just really easy to get a tent set up, a tripod in the distance, and at whatever distance you want to set that up, you're able to get an angle to effectively get the herd and not overdo the hunting pressure. So for me, I think Te Awaroa is going to be our fallow grinding map of the future. I forgot about that. I want to go over and claim that, but I'm still planning on spending a good bit of time on Emerald Coast first. When we get to the Great One Fallow Deer grind officially, I'm going to say it will be here on Te Awaroa though. And they just keep on showing up. That one is nervous. I don't know where he was, but it had to be right there close to the tent. Go ahead and take him out too. Not that it's really giving us anything. Early access is about to be over here and we'll officially lose these things. And they just keep on showing up. I mean, I said this is the best fallow lake in the game. It's hard to, you know, compete with something where they, as you're shooting a ton of them, keep showing up to these zones and repopulating them. And we're not even going to worry about shooting those couple of smaller ones that we just saw, but I think this lake, if not the rest of the hunt, really helps to make the point. There's just so many in such easily huntable locations, and here, apparently, I mean, they just don't quit showing up. I don't know where this one came from either. There's a chance they're respawns. No one really knows exactly how respawns work, but it was actually fallow deer here on Te Awaroa that kind of convinced me they may be immediate and just could respawn in different locations and have a long kind of distance to go to. I think we shot that right in the shoulder as well, so we'll try to, if we can, get it down more quickly. That was nice of it to turn and give us a shot. And it wasn't actually in this location, it was down on the river where we first started this, right down in here. After shooting an entire herd's worth of fallow bucks back when there were actually more down there even than there are now, I claimed them all, was headed to the east just going down the river, turned around and there were a whole bunch more there that I was able to shoot and just wipe out a huge number of fallow deer. It was at that point that I thought maybe respawns were immediate and not after you, say, change maps, close the game, anything like that. And just based on what we saw there in that little time period, maybe they were coming from other locations, but it's also the end of fallow drink time. It would be weird for them to just be showing up then. But the respawn conversation is a topic for another day. This particular day is about the fallow deer and which map is going to be better for grinding. I'd say it's fairly clear now. Te Awaroa is going to be the better of the two maps. I still, like I said, I wouldn't say Emerald Coast is bad by any means. It can absolutely be accomplished there. It's just that I think if you want to be as efficient as possible, probably Te Awaroa is going to be the way to go. And it just so happened, we had an empty space here in our grind lodge. I think we actually had one of our biggest diamond red deer in that spot and then moved them to the main lodge after getting our great one. But it really is amazing to see them, you know, up close with their new models. Well, even because this is early access, these changes won't be here for long anyway. It'll be back to how it should have been in the main game. I mean, they're just so much better. It actually occurred to me when making the fallow setup video a couple weeks back. We had already seen the new models on EW's livestream, of course, because then we knew the Great One Fallow were coming. And I just realized how much better the fallow deer could look. Like, the old ones just didn't look as good as I kind of thought. And seeing these, it really makes it very obvious. But a max weight diamond here in early access that, of course, is going to go away fairly soon when the update officially comes out. But I'm really curious. What map do you guys plan on grinding if you're going for a fallow great one? Is it going to be the Emerald Coast? Will it be Te Awaroa? Will it be Hirschfelden? Let me know in the comments below. And on that note, that's going to do it for this video. So as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.